Today I'm with Alison Rigby, owner of Wincanton Chiropractic Clinic, which is now celebrating its 30th anniversary. Firstly, congratulations, Alison.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to be asking Alison a series of questions this week about her last 30 years in business. Alison, take us right back to the start. What made you decide to become a chiropractor?
When I was small, I always remember my father having a really bad back. He really used to struggle. He was never able to play with us, and he used to be away a lot. And I remember when he used to come back, we used to end up seeing all these different people to try and sort his back problem out. And then there was this one chap called Mike Bassett, who was a chiropractor. We went all the way to Watford to see him, and I think we ended up, the whole family, seeing him for various things. But he was the miracle worker. He sorted my dad's back out, and he was then able to play with us and do all the things that dads are supposed to do. So I guess that's probably why I became a chiropractor.
Where did you go to chiropractic college?
In 1985, the only place in the whole of Europe to study chiropractic was actually in Bournemouth. So I ended up at the Anglo-European College of Chiropractic, which was great. So I was there for 4 years. It's a lovely place to be. One of the really good things about it is there were at least 50 to 60% Scandinavian, European students there as well. So it made it a very interesting, diverse educational experience. I loved it.
And did you come to Wincanton straight after college?
No, I didn't. My first job, in fact, was in Woking. Soon after that, I moved on to another practice in Reading, where I stayed for quite a while. I worked with an amazing guy called Steve Carpenter, who taught me an awful lot. He was an amazing mentor. During that time, I also set up a small practice of my own within a squash club that had a gym, and I used to go training in there quite a lot, and I ended up treating quite a few international squash players. So that was quite fun. I enjoyed that.
What made you choose Wincanton as a place to work?
Well, funnily enough, I'd already decided, as much as I loved working in the Reading practice, I'm very much a country girl, always wanted to come back to the country, and I had just recently bought a little cottage in Dorset, and I was driving from Dorset to Reading, which is obviously quite a big commute. And then very randomly, one day, I was working at the Caversham Squash Club, and I picked up our chiropractic magazine. And as I picked it up, a piece of paper fell out on the floor, and it said, "Chiropractic clinic for sale." And I looked, and it said Wincanton. I thought, I wonder where that is. I looked it up and thought, gosh, I must look into that. That looks very close to where I'm living.
What was it like when you first came here?
I remember the day so well. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I can remember pulling up outside the practice in my little Peugeot 106 and getting out and looking at the building thinking, gosh, what a lovely building. And I'd done a little bit of research, and I think it had been a chiropractic clinic just for a few years, but for a few years before that, I think it had been the GP surgery, and I just thought that actually sounded rather nice. And I walked in the practice. It had a lovely feel, real lovely homely feel, and I just thought, yeah, this is great. The town looked nice. It looked like a nice rural town, and I just had a good feeling about the place.
And how did it come about that you bought Wincanton Chiropractic?
Gosh, well, there's a story. The chap who owned the building, Mr. Davidson, who was a previous chiropractor, had decided he now wanted to sell. I was a bit nervous about buying, and he'd suggested a very high price, so it ended up going to auction. I was very nervous about going to auction, so I'd asked a friend to come with me. He was going to do the bidding because that's what he did for his work. So again, I think I put in the first bid. I think I must have jumped out of the chair like I was electrified. So it was fairly obvious that I wanted to buy the building. The price then went up to my actual maximum, so I thought my heart was going to jump out of my chest. I was so nervous, and I thought the building was going to get sold to this chap, and my friend stood up, put his hand up and put in an extra £1,000, and with that I managed to get the building. And bless him, that friend of mine, the next morning I arrived at the practice and there was £1,000 in cash shoved through my letterbox, so I was actually able to get the mortgage and buy the practice. And then after that, the next day, I actually went to meet the tenants who I'd never met, who lived in the flat, and I'd also never actually seen the flat upstairs, which I'd now bought.
What reception did the people of Wincanton give you when you first took over?
Oh, it was lovely. I absolutely loved coming here. People were so friendly. Everybody was so welcoming. It was a very different vibe to where I've been working in Reading, where it was very commuter belt. People were very stressed coming out of London. I always remember driving down the 303 thinking, yes, I'm coming back to Wincanton. Everybody's going to be welcoming and lovely. I'd always lived in the countryside, and I think I've probably always wanted to work again in the countryside, and probably that's why I'm here 30 years later.
What has been the biggest challenge you've faced in the last 30 years here?
Probably COVID. I can remember the day very well, having to clear the diaries, ringing people, telling them we couldn't see them, panicking how people are going to manage at home to manage their problems, realising quite quickly I could actually still help people via Zoom, which was more helpful than I thought it actually might be. When we did come back to work, then there was a challenge of PPE, masks, gloves, aprons, which was all horrible. Very glad now everything is back to normal and we're doing face-to-face just the way I like it.
How do you find working in one room all the time?
Well, I can't believe I've been in this room for as long as I have, but a lot has actually happened in this room. I remember one day, 28 years ago, I was waiting for my next patient and there was a knock at the door, and in comes Graham, my now husband, and he actually proposed to me in this room. And then later on, some of you may remember all those years ago coming in and seeing a little baby called Tommy sleeping on the chair in the corner when I was short of childcare.
And how did you manage your work-life balance whilst raising a family and running the clinic?
I have to say it was tricky with Graham, who was in the forces, was away an awful lot of the time. I would not have managed without my staff. There were times when I would come out, and I don't know if you will remember Vivian, who was with me for a very long time. She was out there knitting little jumpers and blankets for the children. And there were times when some of the staff would also double up and help me with childcare. I really wouldn't have managed without them. So those two little boys now are all grown up. My eldest Tommy, who's nearly 24, is an officer in the Navy. My youngest Will is up in Leeds doing a film production course. He's now 20 and I'm very proud of both of them.
What do you enjoy most about your role as a chiropractor?
Well, that's quite simple. I think it's the patients. Having been here for such a long time, I've met so many lovely people. I've ended up treating their children, grandchildren, and I think the best thing is realising that sometimes I do make a difference to their lives. They come in pain, they're able to get back to work and do the things that they enjoy doing. So that's it.
What plans do you have for the future of Wincanton Chiropractic Clinic?
I think I want to keep everything exactly the same as it is. I've got a great team here. I've got 2 chiropractors, a couple of massage therapists and an acupuncturist. We all work really well as a team. It's great. I want to continue helping everybody here in Wincanton and further afield. And actually, I really want to thank everybody for their lovely comments and messages that I've had on Facebook about these videos. I've really enjoyed reminiscing about my last 30 years here, and everybody's been so kind. It's been really overwhelming and very touching. And I actually can't believe I've been here for 30 years. I'm so glad I'm still here. I really would not change a thing.